Welcome to Metrocasting. I'm Doug Farley. You know, most areas have one or two places or things within the community that are considered local treasures. Well, one of those local treasures in the town of Bloomsburg is the old Moose Lodge building on Main Street. It is now known as the Moose Exchange, and it's still a local treasure, but for an entirely different set of reasons. Here's why. Once home to one of those older generation fraternal organizations, also known as men's clubs, the Moose Lodge has had a long and storied history, not only in Bloomsburg, but across this great country of ours as well. Sadly, it would appear changes in the way we Americans now live our lives has led to the decline of such entities like the Moose Lodge over recent years. And this particular Moose Lodge ceased operations as a lodge many years ago. But it is still a majestic and lively building that is now being used in a totally different and unique way. Now known as the Moose Exchange, the building is now a hub of sorts for many an artistic endeavor. The rooms once used for meetings or storage space are now being rented out as office space, art studios, businesses, and more. Oren Helbok is the executive director of the Moose Exchange.
The Moose Exchange is an arts and community center. We've been here now for almost 3 years, and we've been developing that whole time. When we first started 3 years ago, we were a building and an idea, but it wasn't really clear what was going to become of this building. Drew McGee, who had bought it when the Moose moved out after 50 years, bought the building because she loved it, wanted it to be an asset for her hometown. But where it went from there was still an open question. So in the summer of '09, Drew hired me to figure out what to do with this. It took a while. We talked to a lot of people. It wasn't simply Drew and me trying to make something happen. We talked to people, business people, artists, folks up and down Main Street. What should this building be? And it was really in 2010 with the first Art Walk-In that kicked the project into high gear. At that point, the building was here, it was empty. The Art Walk Committee came to us and said, look, we'd like to do an event in the building. We'll fill it up. And we said, sure, go ahead. The way I've described it ever since, we opened the doors and they poured the event in. On a Thursday night in February of 2010, there were 30 artists who had work on display in the building. 18 restaurants donated food, half a dozen bands played, 800 people came through the building on a Thursday in February. When the weather was good enough, we didn't even turn on the heat. But there was such energy in the building that by the end of the night, all of our tenant spaces were spoken for. Literally, without doing any kind of advertising, we had people coming up to us, pulling on our sleeves, when can we get space here? Because the building just seemed exciting. So some people just wanted a studio space where they could work. Some wanted a studio space where they could also teach. It helps artists to be away from the house. If there aren't those distractions of children, dogs, spouse, laundry, and all the rest, if there's a space just to be an artist. So we have some of those folks here. We have businesses from the very beginning, Endless Records and Endless Hats. They deal in vinyl LPs and handmade hats, and they wanted a storefront, so they have a space here. Box of Light, which does classes for kids in computer animation, robotics, Lego animation, they needed a home. Rand Whipple, who runs Box of Light, had described his life for the past few years as being a Bedouin. He camped out in one place or another. He wanted a permanent home. This building had a space that could become that for him. Columbia County Bread and Granola, which was just getting started, they needed a place where they could do serious kitchen work, and we have a serious kitchen.
They also have a serious ballroom.
Yes, this is really the coolest room in the building. It's, well, second coolest after the bowling alley. But this is the grill room. In years past, this is where bands had played. They did a Friday night fish dinner here, the Moose had, for years and years and years. 800 people would come through every Friday and eat here. Obviously, those days are past. The fraternal organizations are not what they had been in the life of the town. But we can provide a space for a concert, if you want to do a craft show. Even if you do want to do your wedding, the space is here. And we do a fair number of our own events, including our community market, the Farmers and Producers Market here on Saturdays in the fall. We are also in a very productive collaboration with the university, with Bloomsburg University, the Center for Visual and Performing Arts. We can provide in this building a space for their performances and gatherings. And most importantly, we become a venue where things from the university and things in town come together.
The upper floor has also been used for such things as workshop theater. That's where we caught a brief glimpse of a future Bloomsburg Theater Ensemble holiday production set for the main stage in 2013. So the Moose Exchange has two rather large multi-purpose rooms available. But As Oren alluded to earlier, this building has another cool room, the old Moose Lodge bowling alley downstairs.
Once upon a time, Bloomsburg had 22 bowling lanes downtown. There were 6 lanes here at the Moose. The Elks had 8. The Masons in the Caldwell Consistory, they still have 2 lanes that were never fully mechanized. They don't use them anymore, but they're still there. And then there was a private alley up behind the old high school. Between those places, there were leagues running 7 days a week in town. Everybody bowled. We still have the space, the 6 lanes downstairs. We don't have leagues yet. We're working on it. But they are available for parties. We have a fairly lively party rental schedule. And we're also open for open bowling on Friday evenings from 5 to 8 and Saturdays from 10 to 2. $5 per person. Come in, we'll give you a ball, we'll give you shoes, and you can bowl until you get bored.
As you can see, walking into this bowling alley is like stepping back in time when not only did you have to keep your own score, but you were actually allowed to smoke inside, as evidenced by the ashtrays in the scoring tables and the molded seating area. Those ashtrays, by the way, are now only there for historical significance, as smoking is no longer allowed in the Moose Exchange. But the real history is in the back of the bowling alley, in the pin setting machines, which are state-of-the-art 1960s mechanics. And it's a true source of pride for Oren.
These machines are about the same age I am, just a couple years older. They were built during the Kennedy administration and then installed here either late in the Johnson administration or early Nixon. About 1968 or 69, they came to the Moose. AMF built them and then sold them to the Moose. They were reconditioned machines at that point since the Moose couldn't afford to buy brand new. But they've been working here for almost 50 years. They're still highly reliable machines. They are big, strong American steel machinery, very similar to what you would find in a factory making things. Each machine has 20 pins in it. As you're bowling on one set of 10, the other set of 10 is getting reset into the top of the machine so that at the end of your frame, those new 10 pins will come down and you'll be ready to go. So we'll run it through the process here. In the first half of the frame, the fingers will feel for pins. The table drops, the fingers feel for pins. Everywhere those fingers feel a pin, it sends a signal through the relay box to turn a light on out front on the pindicator. That's how you know what you're aiming at, what pins are left standing in the second half of the frame. In the second half, though, the machine is simply going to sweep everything out of the way. It doesn't feel for pins again, so it can't keep score. As these pins have come to the back of the machine to go up in the elevator wheel, the new set of 10 pins is ready to go there right on the deck for your next frame. The pins ride up in the elevator wheel and then onto the distributor. The distributor is entirely mechanical, and over the course of one revolution of its cam wheel, will set pins into each one of the 10 locations in the bin, ready to be set in the next part of the frame. Right now, the front of the machine is waiting for that pin there to drop. As soon as it's in place and hits the switch, it sets those pins and you're ready to go, and the next set of 10 pins is headed for the top. As you're bowling out front, you don't see any of this happening, but it's going on continuously in the back, so you can be out front having a good time.
What is amazing when you think about it is before the automatic pin setters, the Moose Lodge employed young men to set the pins by hand, which was an entirely different process and which paid relatively well back in the day. And up at the bar, the original tip box for those pin setters remains. And we're told those who worked the lanes closest to the bar actually got better tips. Go figure. In closing, the Moose Exchange is still sort of in its infancy, but growing all the time. In fact, Oren envisions even bigger and better things for the future.
I would say more of what we're doing now. The Exchange has become what I call an increasingly essential part of the local cultural scene and the life of the town. There are more and more things happening here, university events, concert events, the things that we're putting on. As time goes on, I would like to see the Exchange working more with other organizations in the area. we've had now for 2 years an extremely successful Halloween event here. Downtown trick-or-treating happens right around Halloween. In the evening, right after the kids are done going up and down to the stores, the Y has put on an event here with crafts, with a costume contest, with other activities. We've gotten about 400 people each of the last 2 years. They fill the building. What I always tell everyone, this building never looks better than when it's full of people. And events like that, where the community knows that this is a place that they can come to, that's why we're here.
The Moose Exchange is located on Main Street in downtown Bloomsburg, and it's just a couple blocks from the square. It is available for rent for weddings and events, things like that. Call Oren for details. His information is on the screen. And for you bowling aficionados, don't forget, open bowling Friday nights 5 until 8, Saturday mornings from 10 till 2. $5 gets you an alley, shoes, and a ball, and you can bowl till your arm drops off. And don't forget to ask Oren for a tour back by the pin setting machines. He loves doing that. That'll do it for this episode of MetroCasting. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you again after later.